Okay, welcome back everyone. As we start the second daf on this beautiful Motzei Shabbos, as we are in Motzei Shabbos of having finished Parshas Ekev, getting ready for the coming week of Re'eh, and for many the close of the summer with next week with the Labor Day weekend here on the Eastern Coast, and we just welcome in Mo Kushner, who's joining us. Great to have you. Richard Rosenzweig, who's joining us also on Facebook. And wonderful to see everybody here on this beautiful Motzei Shabbos. As we learned a new Mishnah on the first wide line, Lo yiftach adam l'chatzer shutfin Pesach keneged Pesach. You can't open up in a courtyard of partners a door opposite a door, or chalain keneged chalain, or a window opposite a window, because that would be an invasion of privacy. The Gemara will learn this out from Bilam, where it says, Matovu alecha Yaakov mishpneisecha Yisrael, and over there we know that the beauty, he recognizes that the windows were not one opposite the other. If the door was small, you cannot make it big. If it was one, you can't make it into two. We'll talk about what this means in the Gemara. If you have a house opposite somebody's house on the other side of a public avenue, let's say you live on either side of 13th Avenue, you could open up a door opposite a door, or a window opposite a window, because you anyway have to worry about privacy because of the people in the Rishus Harabim. If it was small, you can make it large. If it's one, you can make it two. Now, let's see what this means. So first of all, how do we know that we're supposed to stagger our doors and our windows and not open them up flush with somebody else's window or door? The pasuk says, "Vayisa Bilam es einav." Bilam lifted his eyes, Vayares Yisrael, and he saw Yisrael shochein l'shvatav, dwelling according to its tribes. So, what did he see? What did he notice? So the Gemara says, "Ma'ara ra she'ein pischei ahaleim mechuvanim zeh lezeh." He saw that their doors did not open one opposite another. He saw that they had a sense of tznius. Amar ru'uyin halalu, these people are fit shetishra aleim shchina, that the shchina should devolve upon them. Now, remember we said that in a chutzner, everybody is afforded an area of 4x4 amas for every door that they have. Besides dividing the courtyard equally, if it comes to be divided, everybody gets the 4x4 amas in front of their door. So Savarami Bar Chama Lameima, it says, Savarami Bar Chama Lameima Bar Dalid, if the door is 4 tfachim, Leila Shavye Bar Tamne, he shouldn't make it 8 tfachim, because that would give him extra area that's exclusively his, before dividing the courtyard equally. The kashakal tamnei b'chatzim. Aval bar tarte, but if it's 2 tfachim, I would say l'shavya bar abba, to make it 4 tfachim shapadam, because either way he's not getting any extra area in the courtyard. Even if it's 2 tfachim, he gets a 4 tfachim area in the courtyard. Amalei Rava, but Rava says no, still his partner could stop him by saying, Matzi Amalei b'pischa zutra, when you had a small door, I could have privacy on the angles. Matzina litztanuye minach. B'pischa rabba, now that you're making the door bigger, loy matzina itztanuye minach. I can't have as much privacy. Echad, if it's one door, lo yasenu shnaim, you shouldn't be able to make it into, you're not allowed to make it into 2 doors. So again, Savarami Bacham Lameima Bar Arboy, if it's 4 tfachim, lo l'shavye trei b'nei tarte. You shouldn't make 2 doors of 2 tfachim each, because by each door you get 4 tfachim. So if he'll make 2 doors of 2 tvachim, he would get 4 tvachim for each doorway. Because shakul tamnei b'chatzah. Aval bar tamnei, but if it's 8 tvachim, l'shavye b'nei arba, to make it into 2 doors of 4 and 4, shabadami. That would be okay, because what's the difference? Either way, he gets 8 tvachim in the courtyard. Amalei Rava says no. When you had 1 door of 8 tvachim, you either kept it closed or open. You opened it sometimes for air, or you closed it. So at least when you closed it, I had privacy. Matzi amalei bechad pischa matzina itztenu yeminach. I had sometimes privacy. But betray, if you're going to convert it into 2 doors, so sometimes you'll leave 1 door open, sometimes you'll leave the other door open, so I'll never have privacy. Like matzina, it's the new yemirach. I won't be able to have privacy. It'll limit my amount of privacy, and that's why he could stop it. He could open up a door on opposite sides of the Rosh Hashanah, 1 door opposite his neighbor's door, because he tells him, look, it's the new Yemenei Rosh Hashanah. You're going to have to keep it closed, because otherwise the people of Rosh Hashanah will see straight in. So the fact that I could see straight in is not any different. Now, what's the din if Marshall wants to build an underground storage place under the ground of the Rosh Hashanah? Or he wants to, let's say he lives on either side of the street and he wants to build an underground tunnel under the ground of the Rosh Hashanah. So the Tanakhama says, Ein oisin cholol takas Rosh Hashanah. You cannot make a hollow underneath the Rosh Hashanah with bayrei, shichin, and ma'iris, with pits, trenches, or caves, because we're afraid that the ground might cave in and cause damage to Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Elazar permits it kedei she'tei agola ma'aleches u'tu'unas avonim. If you did a analysis and you reinforced the ground of the Rosh Hashanah that a wagon loaded with stone could pass through over it, so then if you reinforce the ground of the Rosh Hashanah, you're allowed to do it. We'll see that the Tanakhama is afraid that over time it might wear out and you won't be aware of it, and it could cause a cave-in, Rahman al-Itzlan.
You need to have to cause a special place in the community and get a permit to do it for Shisarabah?
Right. Right. Well, we're saying...
You can't go take it on your own.
Well, we're saying that even if he would get such a permit, he's not allowed to do it. He's not allowed to do it because we're afraid it might wear out after a while. Now, you cannot put balconies over the Rosh Hashanah. You can't build into the airspace of the Rosh Hashanah. You can't put out projections into the Rosh Hashanah. But what could Marshall do? Ele imratza, if Marshall wants, he could withdraw from the property line, and then he could put out a balcony, because then the balcony is actually in his private property. If you bought a courtyard of Bozizim v'Gustarais, and it already has projections and balconies hanging over the Rosh Hashanah, so there we say that must be that when it was built because the owner brought it into his property line, and only later the Rosh Hashanah took over that space. So Harei Zu b'Cheskasa, its grandfather claused in, and he could keep it there since it was there from before. Now the Rabbanan that say that you're not allowed to build under the Rosh Hashanah, and as Saba said, even if you get a permit, because Zimna and the Mafkes sometimes, although they did a check and it was able to withstand a wagon full of rock, but after a while the ground erodes and velavadate, and that's how you have a terrible accident. That's why today's bridges need constant inspections. Now, Rav Ami Havele Ziza Rav Ami had a projection, Davi Nofik Lemavua, that projected into an alleyway. Va'u Gavra, and Avu Gavra we know is Marshall, Va'u Gavra, Nami Havi Leiziza Davi Mapik Rosh Hashanah. He had a projection into Rosh Hashanah. Have him come a Akfa Leibnei Rosh Hashanah. The people of Rosh Hashanah are saying, Marshall, get your flagpole that's sticking in the way, get it out of here. So also the Kami to Rabami. So Marshall's a smart guy. He knows the Rabami has one sticking in an alleyway, so he figured, Rabami will paskin like me. So also the Kami to Rabami came before Rabami, and Rabami threw the book at him. Amalei Zilkat told him, cut down your projection. Amalei, so then Marshall says, but what about you? He was respectful. He said, V'amar nami islay. The master also has one projecting into an alleyway. So Rabami said, Didi l'mavoya mapik. My projection is into an alleyway. I know all the members of the alleyway, and they all say it's cool. B'nai mavoya machlin gabay. The people of the alleyway say it's okay. Didach, Marshall, yours is projecting into Rosh Hashanah. You can't get approval from all the people in Rosh Hashanah. Didach Rosh Hashanah mapik man machal gabach. Who's going to allow it? And therefore, since it's an invasion of the Rosh Hashanah, you got to cut it away. Here's another story. Rabbi Yanai havile Elon hanoita l'Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yanai had a tree whose branches hung over the Rosh Hashanah. Havahu Gavra, Marshall, Davale Nami Elon hanoita l'Rosh Hashanah. Marshall also had a tree with its branches sticking in the Rosh Hashanah. Also, B'nai Rosh Hashanah have a kama akvilve. The people of Rosh Hashanah told Marshall, your tree is obstructing. Get rid of it. Get rid of the branches. So also the comment to Rabbi Yanai. So Marshall came to Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai told Marshall, I'll answer your shayla tomorrow. Amalei, Rabbi Yanai told Marshall, Zilha idna, leave now, v'tolamach, and come and ask me the shayla again tomorrow. Belelia, that night, Shadar Kachya Lahudidei. That night, Rabbi Yanai had his branches that were protruding into the Rosh Hashanah cut down. Lamachar also the Kamei. The next day, Marshall came to Rabbi Yanai and said, can I have my branches there? Amalei, so he told Marshall, Zil kites, cut them down. Amalei, so Marshall said, but Amar Nami Yislay, the master also has branches sticking into the Rosh Hashanah. Amalei, so Rabbi Yanai said, Zil chazi, go check mine out. E kites didi, if mine is cut, kites didak, cut yours. E loy kites didi, if mine was not cut, then loy taketzat, then you don't have to cut yours. So the question is, what did Rabbi Yanai think before? Now Rabbi Yanai is pasking that Marshall should cut it down, but you see he allowed himself to have it protruding until this happened. Me'koyer ma'asaver, what did he think initially? Ulub'sayf ma'asaver, and what did he think afterwards that he cut it down? The Gemara says, Me'kover saver nichelu l'bnei Rosh Hashanah diyosvei betulei. Initially he thought that the people of Rosh Hashanah liked the branches coming out because they could sit in its shade. Came in the chazar to come akfe, but once he saw that they were telling Marshall to get rid of it, so Shadar Katzi, he had it cut down. So the Gemara says, well, if he made that realization, why didn't he tell Marshall right away to cut it down? Why didn't he tell Marshall cut it down? Why didn't he tell Marshall come back tomorrow? He should have told Marshall right away, cut it down. And then he should tell Marshall, yeah, I'm going to cut down mine too. Says the Gemara, Mishum de Reish Lakish. It's because of Reish Lakish. The Amar hiskaishishu v'kushu. Take the straw away from yourself and then take the straw away from others. Kshait atzmecha, first beautify yourselves, v'acha kach kshait acher, and then only afterwards beautify others. This is a very big aside for a Rav. A Rav speaks by the pulpit and gives some musar. He has to be very careful that he follows that advice himself. If he's going to say, don't do something, and the Balabatim see that he does it himself, then he'll be branded as a hypocrite. He's not going to be able to have a very good, a very good impression on his congregants. And this is also, we have to know that the only way to convince people to do something is if you're sincere about it. Things that come out of the heart and to penetrate people's heart. That's why there are certain speakers that are not matzliach. They don't understand. Why do people don't listen to me? Because if it's only lip service, it doesn't penetrate the heart. It has to be something that a person practices. And by the way, this is a very big yesod for parenting. A parent is not going to have atzlacha if the parent doesn't do it himself. A parent that tells a child, why aren't you learning? But the parent isn't learning himself, not going to have a lot of atzlacha. Parent tells his children, you got to have shalom bayis. But he doesn't have his own shalom bayis. Doesn't work. That's the meaning of what we say in Kriya Shema. If it's on your heart, then vishinantam levanecha. Then you'll be able to teach your children. But if it's not heartzik by you, you're not teaching your children nothing. And it's not going to work when a father talks a mile a minute in shul and then he tells his child about shtika b'tefillah. That's not going to work. Or if you tell your child to be charitable, but when somebody comes to the door, you tell them your father's not home, it's not going to work. Right? You want the child to be honest, and you got to be honest. Says the Gemara weiter, Aval imratza kaineis l'say shalai umaitzi. If the owner of the house wants to make a balcony, he has to move his house further in the property line, and then he could build a balcony. So, ibayalu, kanas, let's say Marshall is planning to make a balcony, and he brings his house within the property line, v'lo yaitzi, and he didn't make the balcony. And now the public started using the area. Could he make the balcony? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kanas, Rabbi Yochanan says, if he brought it in, then Moitzi, later on, he could make the balcony. Reish Lakish Amar Kanas Eina Moitzi. If he brought it in, and he didn't do it right away, he can't make the balcony. So the Gemara says, no. That's not the machlokes. Amalei Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa. Amalei Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa. Rabbi Yaakov said to Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa, Azberlach, let me tell you what the machlokes is over here. Lahaitzi, for Marshall to make the balcony, since it's essentially his property, Kuli Amaloi Pligi Demaitzi. He could surely make the balcony. Ki Pligi Lahavzik Salam Lamakaima. If he removed his walls 8 feet in, and he seeded that 8 feet. Now he's planning to make a balcony, but in the meantime, the public started pushing in 8 feet more. And Marshall then changed his mind. He wants to take back the 8 feet and put the walls 8 feet further to the end of his property line. Ki pligi laharzik solim lemekayma. V'ipka itma. Rabbi Yochanan Eina Mazir, once he ceded it to the Rishus Harabim, he can't return the walls. Rabbi Yochanan Eina Mazir, because since the public started using it, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda made Sheilzik by Rabbim. If the public started using it as a path, you can't take it back. He could return the walls. Why? Because there's plenty of room for the public to walk. They already had a 13th Avenue. That's only when can't you take away a path. If they started walking on a path, you can't close it up. But this was at the end of the width of the Rosh Hashanah, so they already have room. So if you want to take back the extra space, Reish Lakish says you could take it back. If he bought a courtyard and it already has projections and balconies, now what happens if the house falls down? If it fell down, you could rebuild it. And we don't say, well, now that it fell down, right now you're going to rebuild it into Rosh Hashanah, you're not allowed to do that. We don't say that. Meisvei, the din is because of Zeichel L'Churban, Ein Mesaidin, you can't coat the house with plaster, Ve'ein Mechayrin, and you cannot make images in the walls, like engrave images in the walls. Ve'ein Mefaychen, you can't make pretty murals. Bizman Hazeh. But if before the Churban, Laka Chotzer Mesuyedes Mekuyeres Mefuyeches, if you bought a courtyard that was already coated with plaster, already had images in it or murals on it from before, Harizu B'Cheskasa, you could keep it, but Nafla, if it falls down, Ein Chayza B'Naisa. You can't rebuild it. So the Gemara says, yeah, that's different, because that's Isura. That's because of the Zeichel L'Churban. That's an Israel Savelis. That's Shani. That's different. Now, what is the halacha about plaster? Tan Rabbanan. Lo Yosad Adam Es Beisei B'Sid. You can't use this fancy lime. But V'im Irav Beichel, if you mixed into it sand, or teven, or straw, so it's not so shiny, mutter. Rabbi Yochanan, to the contrary, Irav Beichel, if you mix in it sand, Harizet tracks it. That's a very permanent lime, and that's forbidden. V'asr teven, straw, takes away the shine, is mutter. Tan Rabbanan, Kishacharav Abayis B'Shniya, when the second destruction happened, sadly, Rabbi Prushin B'Yisrael, there were many pious people in Yisrael, Shaloi Lechol Basar V'Shaloi Lishtos Yain. They stopped eating meat and they stopped drinking wine. They said, how could we eat meat when there's no more basar kosher? How could we drink wine when there's no more libations? Rabbi Yeshua did not agree with this abstinence. Netapel lahem Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua debated them. Amalem Banai, my children, why aren't you eating meat and drinking wine? Amrullah, so they said, should we eat meat? They used to offer meat on the Mizbech, and now it's in ruins. Should we drink wine? That they used to offer libations on the altar, and now it's in ruins. So Rabbi Yeshua said, then you shouldn't have bread. We don't have meal offerings. We don't have the lechem upon him. So they said, okay, you're right. Maybe we should only eat fruit. Maybe we should become vegans. You shouldn't eat fruit. They don't have the first fruit anymore. So he said, okay, maybe we should not have the Zayim Minim. We'll live on apples and oranges. So then he said, you shouldn't drink water. So Shasku, they were silent. They saw that they took it too far. So he told them, listen, your heart is in the right place. My children, let me tell you, not to do any mourning. There was already a decree. How can we not mourn? But to mourn too much, we can't do a decree against the tzibur unless the majority could withstand it. It says, with a curse you're cursed, and you're stealing from me by not giving the proper maises and the proper tithes. But a gezeira on the tzibur will only be if it could be agoy kulay, if it could be withheld by the majority, because Ruba Kikula, by the majority of the tzibur. Elakach amru chacham, sod adam es beisei besid. You could coat your house with lime, but u'mishayer by davar mu'at. You should leave a space zeichel mikdash. The kama amr Rab Yosef ama al ama, an area of an ama by an ama in front of the door. Amr Rav Chisda keneged ha'pesach. Oisa adam kol tzorchei suda. You could prepare your meal, u'mishayer davar mu'at, and leave something off the menu. Mahi amr Rav Papa kasa da'arsin, a fried fish with fried in its own sauce with flour and vinegar. Oisa isha kol takshita, a woman could do all of her adornments, u'mishayeres davar mu'at, and she should leave something out. Mahi amarav bas tzida. They used to use a depilatory and remove the hair from the temples. So you leave out that adornment. Shenemar, how do we know we're supposed to do something? Shenemar im eshkachech Yerushalayim. If you forget Yerushalayim, tishkach yamini, then your right hand will be forgotten. It will wither. Tidbak l'shayni l'chiki. Your tongue will get stuck to its palate in dryness if you forget me. Now it says over there that I will bring the morning al roish simchasi. My al roish simchasi. What's al roish simchasi? I just see that David Helfgott and Jablin are in my shul in Fairways. It's great to have you over there. My al roish simchasi. What does it mean at the head of my joy? Rabbi Yitzchak, this is what we do before the chuppah, the Rav. I've done this many times. Try not to burn down the wedding hall by making. A lot of times you come in and the less prepared wedding halls don't have ash. The real prepared ones already have ash. But if they're not prepared, so I got to take a fire and burn a tissue, and you hope you don't burn down the wall. But anyway, so we put the ash on the head of the chassan. This is the ash that's put on the head of the chassan. Now, where on the head is it put? Where do you put it? B'makam tefillin, in the place of the tefillin. Shenem lasum la'avlei Tzion, to place for the mourners of Tzion. Losleis lahem pe'er takas efer. Now we know pe'ercha chava shalecha, that's the tefillin. And in Yitzhak Hashem, it will be, in the future, there will be an adornment instead of the ash. The kolam isabala Yerushalayim, whoever mourns over Yerushalayim, zeicha v'roya b'simchasa, will see in its joy. Shenem simchu es Yerushalayim, will rejoice over Yerushalayim. Kolam isabam achrea, all those that mourn after her. Tanya, Amr Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, Miyayim shecharav Beis Hamikdash, from the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, dinu shenigzer al atzmeinu, it's a din that we should decree shaloi lecha b'isa b'loi lishtis yayin, because we don't have the kachim, we don't have the nisachim. Ela ein geizrim gezeir al tzibur, we don't make a decree, elim ken roiv tzibur yichayim lamed ba, unless the majority could withhold it, and the majority wouldn't be able to withhold it. Umiyayim shepashta malchus harishah, Malchus HaRishah always refers to the Roman government. And from the day that the ruthless Roman government held sway over our people, they made wicked decrees, vikacious and tough ones, and they mevatel from us Torah and the mitzvahs, and they don't allow us to do a bris milah, and they don't allow us to do a pidyon haben. Dinu shenigzer al atzmeinu, we should decree upon ourselves, shaloi lisa isha, at least those that were Mekayim period of Arivia, Taisa says, shaloi lisa isha, not to marry a woman, uloi lebanim, and have children. Menim sezerah shel Avram Avinu kolam e'elav, and then Klal Yisrael will disappear on its own, chas v'shalom, until the decree is cancelled. Of course, it'll never disappear, because that we know from the Megillah Esther, v'zichram lo Yosef mizaram, ela hanach lam liyisrael, but we don't make such a decree, because it's a gezerah that people would not be able to listen to, not to sleep together, and therefore mutav shiur shogeg, and it's better that we should be a shogeg, ba'al yumei and not be willful and break a decree. Hadnu la cheskes abatim, hadnu la cheskes abatim, hadnu la cheskes abatim. I want to remind everybody that the coming week the shir is earlier. Shir is this week 8:15. So we are coming back to almost the earliest that it ever is. We know that we never go earlier than 8. So we are coming to an early time for the shir. I don't believe we ever go earlier than 8. Am I correct about that?
I think I'd like a few minutes before 8 once.
Maybe.
Days get shorter.
Your rare afternoon share.
What does it mean, this line over here? Hanach lim l'Yisrael mutav shiur shogeg v'al yumei. That's mashma that it's still an isser, but they're shogeg, so what can you do? It sounds like they should do privy. It sounds like it's really intrinsically wrong.
Right. That's what the Gemara is saying over here. The Gemara is saying that really it would be intrinsically wrong to have children that would
And have a bris milah.
right, not only not bris milah, but not be able to learn Torah and not keep the mitzvahs.